Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're taking a closer look at Occidental Petroleum.
Occidental Petroleum?
Yeah, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh, yeah.
They've been buying a ton of Occidental stock.
Interesting.
So we're going to figure out what they see in this oil stock.
Okay.
And we've got this great articles from the Motley Fool.
I like the Motley Fool.
Yeah, it breaks down their performance, their future plans.
Awesome.
So let's jump right in.
Sounds good.
Okay, so right off the bat, this article highlights Occidental's strong Q4 in 2024.
Q4.
Yeah, fourth quarter last year, they exceeded production guidance.
Oh, wow.
Even hit record production levels.
Record levels?
Here in the U.S., yeah.
So to understand that, you need to understand BOE.
Bull.
Barrels of oil equivalent.
That's
oil and natural gas production.
Oh, okay.
So exceeding guidance in BOE means they're pumping out product.
Yeah.
At a rate surpassing expectations.
Great news for investors.
Yep.
But wait, there's more. Their oil and gas segment income remains steady.
Okay.
Even with a 7% dip in oil prices.
During the same period.
Yeah. How'd they manage that?
Well, their strong performance in the Permian Basin and Rockies region.
Right.
That helped offset those lower prices.
So they weren't as affected by the dip.
Exactly. Plus, they have additional income from their chemical and midstream segments.
Oh, interesting.
So that helps balance things out.
So it's not all about oil.
Right.
Now, remember that huge Crown Rock acquisition?
Yeah, Occidental made that.
Well, guess what? They hit their debt reduction target.
Oh, wow.
7 months early.
That's impressive.
For that deal.
How did they pull that off?
Through strong cash flow, asset sales, and disciplined financial management.
It makes sense that taking on debt for an acquisition like Crown Rock is normal.
Totally.
But paying it down so quickly?
Yeah.
That's a really good sign.
Very positive. So they're actively managing their assets.
It seems like it.
And speaking of asset management,
yeah.
Occidental, they're planning to continue selling assets.
Interesting.
Like up to $6 billion worth.
Wow. So selling assets can help reduce debt.
For sure.
And focus on the most profitable parts of their business.
Exactly.
But it makes you wonder what exactly they're selling. Are these their high-growth assets?
Right.
Or are they getting out of stuff that's not performing well?
That's a good question.
That's what gives us insight into their long-term strategy.
And here's something else that caught my eye.
What's that?
Occidental increased their dividend payout.
Oh, really?
By 9%.
9%? What does that tell us?
Well, it shows they're in good shape.
Yeah.
And are confident in the future.
Well, increasing dividends usually means a company has enough cash flow to cover operations, make investments, and still reward shareholders.
Okay, so they've got strong performance, smart debt reduction, increasing dividends. But what about growth?
That's important.
Well, they're setting aside, this is a lot, $7.4 to $7.6 billion.
Wow.
For investments.
For investments in what?
In 2025.
Okay.
And it's not just about oil wells.
Oh.
A big chunk of this is going to the Permian and Rockies.
Okay, sure.
But they're also branching out.
Branching out into...
Carbon capture and storage.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
With their Stratos project.
Stratos.
Carbon capture. That's a twist.
Yeah, tell me about the Stratos thing.
Okay, so Stratos, it's this massive carbon capture and storage hub that Occidental's
developing, okay.
So, essentially it involves separating CO2 from other gases and industrial emissions. And then this captured CO2 is compressed, transported for storage.
Storage where?
Deep underground.
Underground.
Yeah, in these carefully chosen geological formations.
Oh, wow.
Where it's permanently stored.
So it's like instead of polluting the air,
exactly,
they're putting it away somewhat safe.
You got it.
And that keeps it from contributing to climate change.
Huge potential environmental benefits.
Yeah, but there are also some challenges.
Like what?
Well, implementing this technology. It can be expensive.
Oh, I see.
You need special equipment, infrastructure. The process itself uses a lot of energy.
So it's not a cheap solution?
Not at the moment, but costs are expected to go down.
Oh, okay.
As technology improves, it becomes more widely adopted.
Right.
Scaling up is another challenge.
What do you mean?
Well, right now, carbon capture projects, they're relatively small.
Okay.
To really make a dent in global emissions, we need to figure out how to do this on a much larger scale.
I see. So it's not perfect yet.
True. But Occidental's a Stratos project. It's a good example of how it can work.
Okay.
It's one of the largest projects of its kind and could significantly reduce their emissions.
That's good.
Plus, there's potential for making money.
Making money how?
Selling carbon credits.
Carbon credits?
Kind of like a market.
A market?
For emissions reductions.
Okay.
Companies exceeding their targets can sell those extra reductions as carbon credits.
To other companies?
Yeah, to companies struggling to meet their own targets.
Interesting. So they're getting into carbon capture,
yeah,
but they're also expanding their chemical business.
Oh, yeah, with that.
With the OxyChem Battleground project.
Battleground.
What's happening?
What is happening there?
Yeah.
Well, the Battleground project is all about modernizing and expanding one of their chemical plants.
What kind of plant?
One that produces essential chemicals like chlorine, caustic soda, vinyls.
Essential chemicals? Okay.
We're talking everyday products here.
Like what?
Water treatment, soap,
packaging,
building materials.
Wow, so they're in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you're using their products all the time.
Indirectly.
And
this Battleground project expected to boost their earnings.
By how much?
An estimated $325 million annually.
Annually?
Starting in 2026.
Wow.
That's a lot of extra cash.
It is. So what makes this project unique?
Well, the chemical industry is huge.
It is a huge global market.
And Occidental's trying to increase their market share.
Okay.
This project will upgrade facilities and expand production capacity.
For those key chemicals?
Yep, used across all sorts of industries.
So they're not just an oil company anymore.
Right.
They're diversifying.
This is getting interesting. We just covered a lot with Occidental Petroleum.
Did.
Their financials.
Right.
Carbon capture, chemicals market.
Occidental seems to be balancing traditional oil and gas with new energy technologies.
Is that even possible?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
Let's look closer at carbon capture.
Okay.
And see if it's a game changer.
So getting technical here, what exactly is carbon capture and storage?
Okay, so remember when we talked about Occidental storing those carbon emissions underground?
Yeah.
There are actually several ways to do it.
Okay.
But basically, you capture those CO2 emissions.
From where?
From industrial sources like power plants, refineries.
Got it.
Once it's captured, that CO2, you compress it and transport it, usually through pipelines, to be stored deep underground in these geological formations.
So instead of polluting the air,
exactly,
it's stored away.
Right, where it can't contribute to climate change.
Makes sense.
So the environmental benefits are huge. Yeah. But there are some challenges too.
Like what?
Cost.
Okay.
This technology, it's expensive to implement.
I see.
Especially equipment, infrastructure, and the process itself uses a lot of energy.
So it's not exactly a cheap solution?
Not right now, but the costs should come down as the technology improves and it gets more widely adopted.
Makes sense.
Scaling up is another challenge.
In what way?
Right now, those carbon capture projects, they're pretty small.
Okay.
To really make a difference globally,
yeah,
we need to figure out how to capture and store much more CO2.
So Occidental's Stratos project.
Yeah.
Is that a good example then?
It is. It shows how it can work.
Okay.
It's one of the largest carbon capture projects in the world.
Really?
And could really reduce their emissions.
That's good.
Plus, they can potentially make money
from
selling those carbon credits.
Right, the carbon credits. But how big of a deal is this really?
Well,
will this actually make a difference in global emissions?
It's one project.
Right.
To make a real impact globally.
Yeah.
We need to see this technology being used.
Okay.
Across many different industries.
So Occidental is kind of leading the way?
In a way, yes.
For others to follow.
And that's why investors are interested.
Oh, okay.
If they can prove that carbon capture is good for the environment and their business, it could lead to more investment in this technology.
Okay, so that's carbon capture.
Uh-huh.
What about Occidental's expansion into the chemicals market?
The Battleground project.
Yeah, what about that?
It's a huge market. Chemicals.
Okay.
Diverse applications.
Like
agriculture, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, construction.
Wow.
And Occidental is already a big player.
True.
OxyChem, their subsidiary.
Right.
And Battleground.
Yeah.
That's about growing their production.
To keep up with demand.
Exactly.
What kinds of chemicals are we talking about here?
Think bigger than your kitchen sink.
Okay.
OxyChem produces chlorine.
Okay.
Caustic soda. Ethylene dichloride.
And those are used in
essential ingredients for many products.
Oh, wow. So they're kind of hidden.
In a way, yes. Woven into our lives.
And the demand's only going to grow.
Right. As the population grows, economies develop.
Battleground is their way to grab more market share.
You could say that, but the chemical industry, not exactly known for being eco-friendly.
So how is Occidental addressing that?
Well, like many industries,
yeah.
there's pressure to reduce their impact.
Okay.
Become more sustainable.
So are they just ignoring that?
No, they're investing in things to reduce their impact.
Right.
Improving energy efficiency at their plants.
Okay.
Reducing water consumption. Using renewable energy.
So they're trying to meet demand.
Yes.
But also minimize their footprint.
It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
But companies who can do that, they'll be the ones who succeed.
Long term.
Consumers want sustainability, and investors are watching.
What?
How companies handle environmental, social, governance factors.
ESG?
Exactly.
It's like the whole world is waking up.
To sustainability, yes.
And this trend is only going to grow.
Absolutely. Companies ignoring it will face consequences.
So we covered carbon capture.
We did.
Chemicals. ESG.
Occidental's making big bets.
On the future of energy. But what does it all mean?
For investors.
Like you.
That's the question for part 3.
All right, so welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. Occidental Petroleum. We've covered a lot.
Yeah, their financials, growth strategy, that big move into carbon capture.
Right. And their expansion into the chemicals market?
It's a lot to process, but now for the most important question.
For investors?
Yeah, for investors like you.
Is this a smart investment?
Is Occidental Petroleum a company worth putting your money into?
That's what we're here to figure out. Let's break it down.
Okay, let's do it.
What are the potential rewards?
Well, first, you got to look at their performance.
They've been doing pretty well.
Yeah, exceeding production guidance, healthy cash flow.
And they paid off that debt early.
Exceeding their own debt reduction targets. All signs of a well-managed company.
Don't forget the dividend increase, too.
Oh, yeah, that 9% dividend increase signals confidence.
In their ability to generate cash flow.
And reward their shareholders.
So financially, things are looking up.
Seems like it.
But what about long-term growth?
That's where their growth investments come in.
The Permian, the Rockies, all that.
Continued development of those resources should ensure steady revenue.
Okay.
But it's the diversification.
Into carbon capture and chemicals.
Yeah, that's what could really drive future growth.
So it's about not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly. They're trying to benefit from both the demand for fossil fuels now.
And the shift towards cleaner energy.
In the future.
It's like they're hedging their bets.
You could say that.
Sounds promising, but no investment is without risk, right?
Of course not. There are always risks to consider.
Yeah.
Well, the oil and gas market.
It can be volatile.
Yeah, oil prices can swing wildly.
Because of global events?
Economic conditions, even the weather.
So if oil prices dropped,
Occidental's profits could take a hit.
That's true. But they're not solely reliant on oil anymore.
Right, their expansion into carbon capture and chemicals.
Should help if oil prices dip.
Exactly. It's like a safety net.
Any other risks to keep in mind?
Well, there's always the risk that their strategy doesn't work out.
That their big plans don't go as planned.
Those projects, the Stratus carbon capture, the OxyChem expansion, big undertakings.
Things could go wrong.
Caught overruns, technical challenges, regulatory hurdles.
Yeah, those are all possibilities.
We also have to consider, what if the world moves away from fossil fuels?
But they're then expected.
And those investments become stranded assets.
So there are some serious risks.
There are, but it seems like they're making smart moves to prepare.
Speaking of smart moves, what about Warren Buffett?
Ah, the Oracle of Omaha.
What does he see in Occidental?
Well, Buffett's a value investor.
Right, he likes companies that are undervalued.
With strong long-term growth potential. He seems to think Occidental fits that bill.
And Berkshire Hathaway, they've invested a lot.
Yeah, their massive stake in Occidental, that's a big vote of confidence.
So he's putting his money where his mouth is.
You could say that Buffett doesn't make these kinds of investments lightly.
So should we all just follow Buffett's lead?
Well, every investor needs to make their own decision.
Based on their own situation.
Risk tolerance, investment goals. Occidental has a solid track record, a plan for growth, and the support of a legendary investor.
Well,
always do your own research. Weigh the risks and rewards before making any decisions.
Solid advice. Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Occidental Petroleum.
We've learned a lot about their financials, growth strategy,
their move into carbon capture and the chemicals market,
and how all of that might impact investors.
Occidental is definitely at the forefront of the energy industry.
And the choices they make will have big consequences for both investors and the environment.
It's a story worth watching. So, is Occidental's bet on a future where oil and gas coexist with carbon capture a winning one?
Or are they stuck between two worlds?
We'll leave you to ponder that. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.